This is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present. I'm Tip Kurt.
And I'm Roland Hewlett.
And today it is episode 45, and it's all about No Mercy 2016.
Yeah, just a look back to 4 years ago. It's interesting, all the turnover just in 4 years on this show. And also some of the people that have been repackaged since.
Yes.
Is also interesting.
Yes, it is.
And we're not talking about the Big Show. He's not even on here. He hasn't gone heel face a bunch of times. But yeah, no. Again, it was one of those shows on paper that should have been pretty good, and we'll give our ideas, our thoughts at the end. But on paper, it was a pretty good looking show.
Absolutely, yeah. And like you said, it's interesting to go back in just 4 years' time to see how much has changed in those 4 years.
There's honestly a lot of people on this show not there anymore. In just 4 years, which is insane, really.
Absolutely.
And even some of the people that are there have been repackaged.
Mm-hmm.
The main event, Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton. I know I'm skipping ahead a little, but Bray Wyatt's not that cult leader anymore.
Nope.
He's the Fiend, and that was just 4 years ago. So it was a refreshing look at 4 years ago. The landscape was a little bit different, and it was not only different, but it was still some of the stuff on here was really good.
Yeah,
I will say. Sometimes different, especially for WWE's sake, different is bad sometimes. Sometimes they go a little bit too far one way to be different.
Mm-hmm.
This was actually refreshingly different from the presentation they have now. I think it was kind of nice, but it also wasn't in your face either, like the Attitude Era or... So this was kind of a weird time to go back and revisit. It was nice to see, and the wrestling was good. So.
I agree. Well, let's get into the wrestling. There's 8 total matches. Your pre-show match was an 8-man tag team match. You have the Hype Bros, which were Mojo Rawley and Zack Ryder, and they're teaming with American Alpha, which was Chad Gable and Jason Jordan. They defeat the Ascension, Connor and Victor, and the Vaudevillains, which were Aiden English and Simon Gotch, in about 9 minutes. Talk about turnover. A lot of these guys aren't there anymore, or they have different roles.
What is there, 2 guys that are still there?
Well,
actively?
Mojo Rawley, I guess, would technically be active, even though they don't use him that much anymore.
And Gable.
Jason
Jordan's still there.
He's a producer.
But
and
that's
then
it.
The other team, the Ascension and the Vaudevillains, none of them are there. Aiden English was the last one to go. Just left a couple months ago.
With Zack Ryder.
Zack Ryder.
Zack Ryder was in that Matt Cardona. Zack Ryder was in that layoff as well. And it's that match right there. That match, they showed some highlights during the show too, so we get to see a little bit of it, but we didn't get to see the match unless we weren't going to go back and watch the pre-show or anything. We're not that dedicated, sorry folks. Sometimes these pre-shows are horrible and they just drag on. I don't usually watch the pre-shows for any pay-per-view if I'm watching.
I don't either.
Anyway. No offense to, I know Renee Young not there anymore, but she did a lot of good work on those, but it's just I'm not going to sit and watch 5 hours of No Mercy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just not going to do it. But yeah, just like I said, the turnover, just in this match alone, there's 2 wrestlers that are still there.
Yep.
The other 6 are gone, one of which is still there, but as an agent because he's
agent.
hurt. I think American Alpha could have been one of the best tag teams going. I don't know why they split them up, what the point of splitting them up was. They were kind of like, to me, American Alpha was almost like the second coming of the world's greatest tag team.
Mm-hmm.
Benjamin and Haas.
Very similar presentation.
Yeah,
to
and
that team.
they could go just like they could.
Yeah.
Collegiate wrestlers. I don't know what their point was in splitting them up. Obviously, they had some idea. It didn't work because we'll never know with Jason Jordan because he got hurt.
Yep.
And I think that the Ascension was, for lack of better terms, a modern day ripoff of Legion of Doom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what anybody says. That's what they were. And Zack Ryder. With Mojo, Zack Ryder didn't even want to be in that team necessarily.
Yeah.
If you go back and listen to some of the stuff he said. So, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, he liked Mojo, but he just, especially after they got split up, they got put back together. It was weird. It usually doesn't work when you put a team back together.
Mm-hmm.
Although...
they're doing it with the Riot Squad right now.
Well, and Breezango.
Yep.
I mean, Fandango was out for so long.
Yeah.
Tyler Breeze kind of had to do his own thing for like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But they're back together, and they have a good push right now, too, so on NXT. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, just in that match, it's interesting to see the turnover right off the bat. It's crazy to literally look at that and say, wow, 2 out of those 8 guys still actually wrestled in WWE.
Yeah, a lot of turnover in that just one match alone. We kick off the actual card with the bang, though. It's the triple threat match, and we're starting off with the world titles for the WWE World Championship. You have AJ Styles, who's the champion. He's going to get a win and retain his title over Dean Ambrose and John Cena in about 21 minutes. I think this was a great way to start the show. You don't usually start a show with a world title match. I guess you kind of do when you have when they have the two belts going. This was where they only had the one belt going at the time. I thought this was a really solid opener. Excellent back and forth match. AJ Styles ends up using a chair to win, which retains the heel heat on him and keeps the belt on him while making Dean Ambrose and John Cena not look as bad with the loss.
Right. And this was a SmackDown only pay-per-view too.
Yes.
So even if there was a Universal title, there wouldn't have been. So like it's weird that that's the main title on the show and it went first, like you said. But if you're gonna start it off with a bang, you may as well go ahead and start it off with a bang because they did. Like you said, it was Cena going for his 16th
that was a
record-tying 16th title. And he probably would have had it if it weren't for a steel chair.
Yeah.
That was the storyline there. AJ had just kind of turned heel. It was that cocky, arrogant, beat up John Cena heel at the time. And Ambrose was just kind of lost in the shuffle, unfortunately, which is ultimately why he left. I think he just didn't like the direction there. They had the worst part was that Ambrose doing what he's doing now in AEW. If WWE had just let him be a little bit more like that, he might still be there. I think they just sheltered him too much. And you can see what he can do when they don't have a pacifier in his mouth.
Yeah.
They let him do his thing. He's not restricted, and he's proving that he is one of the biggest names in wrestling. I mean, he was on the list. He was the hottest wrestler on the list this year.
PWI Insider.
So
yep.
He was number one for a reason. And it's too bad the WWE, dropped the ball on that. They just, when Vince gets an idea of what he wants out of somebody, that's what you get.
Yeah.
They had that stupid mask gimmick where he was coming out saying that people stunk.
Oh, yeah, and he had to get vaccinated and all that stuff.
It's just garbage. It's so bad. And this was not there yet, but they were getting there.
Yeah.
He was running out of steam. He was the first pick to SmackDown originally. He was the champion when they first did the brand split. And yeah, it's amazing just again. So now the second match, you have even more turnover. Cena's not there anymore, but he had a great career, and Ambrose is gone.
Ambrose is gone.
I mean,
AJ Styles, there's been retirement rumors for him for a while now.
Yeah, he's supposedly, when his contract's up, he's done.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. Maybe he'll sign a short-term deal, or maybe a year or so, or whatever. But he's, I think it's too bad that he got to the WWE when he did. It's too bad he wasn't able to get there sooner.
Yeah,
but in the time that he's been there, name a bad match he's had.
Yeah.
AJ is great. And it's just too bad they dropped the ball with Ambrose. I've always liked Ambrose as a wrestler. He's always been that kind of little out there, Oh, and I will say, this match, the commentators, I love Mauro Ranallo. I love him as a commentator.
Except for I don't like David Otunga, though.
No, I was going to say, I like him and I like JBL.
Yeah.
And then, David Otunga said about 6 things during the show. That was about it. He, no offense to David Otunga, but...
commentary was just
Jennifer Hudson's the most important thing David Otunga's ever done.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's I love Mauro. I wish he didn't have the mental health issues that he had. That's made him. He left to WWE again. But it was nice to see him come back to NXT. You could tell the guy was excited to do his job. Yeah. He wasn't bullshitting when he was getting excited. There's video out there of him losing his mind calling these matches, standing up and shaking and going. Mauro tells a great story. It's too bad he still wasn't around. Not that I don't mind the commentators they have now. I mean, a lot of people shit on Michael Cole. the WLC match, Michael Cole. A lot of people shit on Michael Cole a lot, and some of that is because Vince is in his ear. Mm-hmm. If they just let Michael Cole talk, and you can tell how much he does know, and he's actually... Some of it was he replaced JR, so that was some of the reason why I didn't, but he's actually grown on me a lot over the years. But it's too bad that Mauro wasn't the other guy, doing whatever other show that, at this case it would be Raw, because Cole is on SmackDown. But it just reminded me how much I liked Mauro Ranallo. And I like JBL when he's able to be that, kind of brash heel color guy. I kind of like that too. So, I mean, and Otunga, who even cares if he was there? He's horrible.
Yeah.
Terrible wrestler. I don't know how he is at being a lawyer. But no offense, got a good look. He just I've never really liked David Otunga.
No.
It's just he never connected with me at all. He has a personality of a cardboard box. So, but yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So we have some more turnover in our next match.
Yep.
It was a late women's division match. You have Nikki Bella getting a win over Carmella in about 8 minutes. Nikki Bella was just coming back from almost a career-threatening neck injury at the time. I think this might have been her first match back. They had built this feud up a little bit on SmackDown, where Nikki Bella interrupted Carmella, I believe.
Yeah, and Nikki Bella supposedly didn't know who Carmella was and stuff, and they made it seem like, she was a little person, essentially, and not Micro Cole, but, a small name, a no-name, essentially, is what they kind of made it seem like.
But I thought the match was pretty solid. I mean, the women's evolution was kind of about starting in this era.
Yep.
So they had a decent amount of time. I thought it was a solid match. Nikki Bella looked really good coming back from injury. She modified her finisher a little bit with the Rack Attack 2.0.
Yep.
So I thought it was a pretty solid match. Kind of predictable. I think that Nikki Bella would get the win.
Yeah, I mean, the only way that Carmella would win would have been if there was some shenanigans.
Yeah, some Gaga or something like that.
Or, DQ or
DQ
something. DQ,
count out, something like that.
Something like that. But you forget, too, because Carmella hasn't been around for a while. She's back now. She just came back. But
That's the mystery woman.
Yeah, she used to be, over. Not quite here yet, but a little bit after that with stuff she was doing with R-Truth. And, she was over with the fans hard, and then she just disappeared. I don't know if it was injury plus COVID or what exactly, but, I mean, a lot of people, I think, had forgotten about Carmella.
Yeah.
And for people who don't know, last I knew, Corey Graves and Carmella were dating.
Yes.
So it's interesting to see her on SmackDown. I mean, she was there to begin with, but with Corey on commentary, he does a really good job of not
acknowledging it
and being biased. He does his job well, and I don't know how he's going to do now, but that was one of the cool things that I liked about Graves. I think that he might be one of the more underrated guys at being a good color guy. He might, like I said, we talked about JBL. I think Corey Graves might be better in that aspect of it. And it's nice. Like I said, I don't hate the commentary now. I just wish Morrow was still around.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, it was definitely nice to see Nikki come back healthy, get the win. And I mean, like you said, it was somewhat predictable. But it wasn't. It was a decent, 8 minutes. It wasn't, it didn't set the world on fire, but it was a pretty good match.
Yeah. Next up was a tag team match for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. You have Heath Slater and Rhino. They're the champions. They're going to retain over the Usos in about 10 minutes. Might be a little bit of a surprising result, but Heath Slater and Rhino had a little bit of momentum going into this match. Heath Slater was begging for a job.
I got kids. I got this job.
Had the chance. He had to win the tag team tournament for the SmackDown titles to keep his job, which they did. You would have thought with the Usos being as popular and one of the more successful tag teams that WWE has, that they might win and get the titles back.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They kind of went with a little bit of a surprise factor, I think, with Heath Slater and Rhino retaining, which I'm all about that, where it's not as predictable.
Right.
So I was pretty happy. I thought the match was solid. I thought the Usos did their typical. They did their splashes. Rhino hit the gore and got the 1, 2, 3. I thought it was a pretty solid match. I was pretty entertained by this one, and I liked the finish.
Beauty and the Man Beast.
Yes.
Rhino, for someone who's been around as long as he has been, I think is also somewhat underrated. He was always a very solid, a good hand. Again, to quote JR, he's a good hand. Heath Slater, same thing. He made a good career out of being a good hand. He just recently got released too with the Ryder releases.
He's at Impact Wrestling now.
Yes.
Heath.
Yeah. So I mean, he made that one little return there when Drew Dolph Ziggler brought him in. But again, more turnover though. I mean, Rhino and Heath Slater aren't there anymore. The Usos are. Jey Uso's in the Roman Reigns storyline right now.
Main event SmackDown now.
I mean, Jimmy was there also with the throwing the towel in for the pay-per-view last time, and this was right when the Usos were starting that heel turn too, where they were darker characters too. I mean, they've kind of come out of that since.
Yeah.
But, they were definitely more kind of like gangster-ish looking at the time versus the face paint Usos that they were before that. But yeah, no, it was a very good match, and kind of a surprise that they retained. And like you said, I'm glad it wasn't predictable. Because predictable would have been the Usos being the tag team. I mean, Usos have been around for like 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, they are a team that I think should stay together until they're done. That's my opinion. They can do singles things here and there, like right now when Jimmy's injured. But especially with Roman, that rumor has it that Roman's the one that pulled the string on that one. Picking who he wanted to work with, essentially. I don't know how true that is, but that's one of the rumors I read. If that's the case, good for him for picking his family and elevating. Jey Uso has proven he can hang.
Yeah,
he took a friggin' beating.
Oh,
in that Roman Reigns in the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So I know that's got nothing to do with this, but it gave me a new respect for what Jey Uso could do. So, and like I said, I've always been a fan of both the Usos, and even this kind of weird odd couple of a team of Rhino and Slater. I like what they did. So.
Next up was a singles match. You have Baron Corbin with hair.
I mentioned that last week.
Yep,
so
you did.
You threw that in there.
Defeating Jack Swagger in about 7.5 minutes here. It was a decent match. It kind of felt a little fillerish to me. Yeah. Jack Swagger was doing the We the People gimmick, but he was actually a face here. The crowd was kind of over with him.
This is to quote Chris Jericho, a stupid idea from Bad Creative.
Yes. He said that on one of the AEW shows.
When Jake Hager, Jack Swagger showed up there and they were chanting that. He's trying to get him to stop because it's not who Jake Hager is anymore. Did you notice, too, that Jack Swagger looked a little bit more portly here? He had a little bit more of a belly to him.
Yeah, a little bit.
He's slimmed down. He's a brick shithouse now. Not that he wasn't then, but you've seen the change he's gone through, the transformation in the last 4 years, just himself. And I've always thought that Swagger was one of those guys that they kind of missed the boat on a little bit too.
Yeah.
He definitely had a lot of potential and could have been, if they booked him right, instead of putting him with Zeb Coulter and putting him, in these stupid
Michael Cole,
dumb stuff. But WWE's known for that. For every one they hit, there's about 10 they don't hit on.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of times it's bad creative. It's really what it is. Not even to be funny about the Jericho thing, but it's true. It's just if the writers don't get anything that makes McMahon chuckle, sometimes they don't make TV. Look at Cesaro. That guy, again, we talk about him a lot on here as being one of those guys that they could do a lot with, and they just never seem to.
Yeah.
They just don't know what to do with them.
Next up was a title versus career match between Dolph Ziggler and The Miz. So if Dolph Ziggler would have lost, you would have had to retire, and...
Oh, you're spoiling it.
What? Yeah, I know, right?
I said you're spoiling it. Because Ziggler's still wrestling today. So.
Yep. And The Miz was the Intercontinental title. This match went, pretty amount of time. They're almost 20 minutes. Solid match here. This match was really, really good.
I was just going to say, this might have been the second best match on the card.
Yeah, a lot of false finishes. The Miz hit a couple skull-crushing finales. Dolph Ziggler kicked out each time.
Spirit Squad showed up.
Maurice got distracted. Distracted Dolph at one point, sprayed him with some hairspray. But overall, I thought it was a solid match. Obviously, Ziggler won because he's still wrestling today.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a really good match. Behind the title match to open the show, you're not gonna find a much better match than this one.
No, and to more shadow what we said earlier about Jack Swagger. Ziggler's pretty much in the same boat as Jack Swagger, except Ziggler stayed there. Mm-hmm. Swagger had about as many title runs as Ziggler has.
Yeah.
And they just, for whatever reason, they're solid, and they just don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
Ziggler's been Nikki. He's been Nikki in the Spirit Squad, and he's been Kerwin White's caddy.
Yep.
And the thing about Ziggler is he wouldn't still be there if he couldn't wrestle. And that's the thing. You can put him pretty much with anybody, and you're going to have a good match.
Yeah.
And The Miz has come a long way.
Mm-hmm.
That guy, when he first used to wrestle, was kind of hard to watch. But he's changed. This is back when he was also trying to get Daniel Bryan. He was doing the yes chants, and he was kind of directing all his stuff towards Daniel Bryan.
He was kind of not making fun of Daniel Bryan, but kind of rubbing it in that Daniel Bryan couldn't compete. Daniel Bryan was the SmackDown GM at the time.
Exactly.
And was still retired.
Doing the yes kicks and the yes chants, and then doing the drop kicks in the turnbuckle in the corner and stuff. And so this was a good story. Ziggler overcame some odds to hang on and win, but like we said, I feel like between those two guys, Swagger and Ziggler, those are two guys just like Cesaro that if they had done it correctly, they'd be bigger than they could be. Mm-hmm. Which is too bad. Like I said, it's one of those things where the WWE just doesn't know what to do with some of these guys.
Yeah.
And they've tried different things. Obviously the Kerwin White thing was stupid to begin with.
Yeah.
but still, it's too bad because Ziggler and Jake Hager, they both have so much talent, and it's too bad that that's been kind of wasted. I don't want to say wasted because they've both done a lot in their career, but it has kind of been
a little underwhelming.
Yeah, there you go. That's probably. I mean, and a lot of that isn't their fault.
No,
it's the cards they're dealt, and sometimes they're dealt really shitty cards.
Yeah.
So, you're not going to go all in a poker match with a 2 and a 6, and that's what they seem to get every time.
Yeah.
But you've noticed too, though, the one times they've been able to get pocket aces, they've been able to do something with it, and then the WWE just gives up on them again.
Yep.
And it's like same with Cesaro again. I don't want to keep rubbing that in, but it's unfortunate that it was nice at this time that something like you said wasn't predictable.
Yeah.
Because it made some of these matches matter more, and it was good wrestling on them.
Absolutely. Next up was Naomi getting a win over Alexa Bliss in about 5.5 minutes. It was supposed to be Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch.
Yes.
But they announced that Becky Lynch had an injury that was unrelated to in-ring activity.
Alexa Bliss said it was a hangnail.
Yes. She got a scathing promo before the match. Again, it was a solid match. I mean, not a whole lot of time here. I like the unpredictability, again, of Naomi winning. I think going into it, you would have guessed that Alexa Bliss would have gone over.
Yep.
Especially where Naomi was a replacement opponent. So I like the unpredictability of that finish. The match itself was pretty good. I mean, nothing too right home about.
Nothing too fancy.
No. But I thought it was
solid match.
It was a solid match, and I mean, Naomi probably wasn't really prepared to wrestle that night.
No, I would imagine that this is something they would have found out shortly beforehand that Becky Lynch couldn't go because they wouldn't promote the match ahead of time if they knew ahead of time.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's Goldberg and Roman Reigns, which they promoted right up until the day of, even though we already knew as fans that Roman wasn't going to be there, which was weird. I don't know what the point of that was.
Yeah.
But, it seems like if they know ahead of time, they'll change it ahead of time so people know not to expect that match. But yeah, Naomi, I think, is another person they kind of don't know what to do with.
Yeah.
She's got great talent. And, it would have been interesting if they maybe had paired her with the Usos ahead of time and kept her there and made her kind of, it's weird that they just don't know what to do with her. And it's too bad because, like I said, she has a lot of talent.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's some of the things with the WWE right now. A lot of the women they have, they're almost too good. They don't know what to do with all of them, which is a good problem to have, but then that also leaves people out. So, hopefully with the shuffling up of the draft and stuff, we'll see. I know Bianca Belair went to SmackDown. Hopefully that'll give her... I mean, they're high on her, so hopefully that'll give her some new steam and change some people up a little bit. Like I said, right now they almost have too many female talents for what they put on each show.
Yeah.
So, does that lead to them getting their own show at some point? Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe.
But I mean, they've had their own pay-per-view. I would imagine they'll probably do that again at some point too.
Yeah.
But it's just there's a lot of really good talent right now that's overlooked, and a lot of it's just they don't have time to show it.
They don't have room for them.
Right, because they have a lot of storylines involving Rey Mysterio and his daughter and his son and all this stuff. That's another story for another time. We'll get to that eventually. But yeah. So, and it actually involves Alexa Bliss because she used to date Murphy.
Yep.
So here we go. We
tied it all in.
All right.
Our main event is a singles match between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. Went 15 minutes, 40 seconds. Bray Wyatt going to get the win. This is cult leader Bray Wyatt at the time. This is Randy Orton was a part of the Wyatt family at one point, and then he turned on Bray Wyatt.
He infiltrated the Wyatt family.
Yes.
And then, this is literally, like you said, follow the buzzards, Bray Wyatt.
Follow the buzzards, Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
This was I thought it was a solid match. I liked the ending where, I think Randy Orton was going for the win, and the lights went out, and Luke Harper shows up, distracts Randy Orton. Bray Wyatt was able to hit Sister Abigail for the 1-2-3. So I like the finish of this match. I thought this one... I'm not sure if it was a main event match.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for the last match on the card, it was underwhelming.
Yeah.
But being that it was SmackDown's first pay-per-view since they split, I believe this is the first
I think it was, yeah.
They had to do something. So, I mean, do you put the Intercontinental Championship last, or do you put that out first and put the title match? I mean, you can debate that all you want. I think Ziggler and Miz should have went out first, and I think the triple threat should have been last.
I agree.
In my opinion, knowing what we know now, because the Wyatt Orton match didn't it didn't fail to deliver, but it also, like you said, it was a good match, but I don't know if it was necessarily a main event match.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Harper didn't do anything in the match. He just showed up. And David Otunga, dumbass. David Otunga, at the end there, they said something about, he's like, well, you can't just go in a ring when you want, and like, JBL was like, he didn't touch him, he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So well, you can't just show up and go, and JBL was like, he just did. Like, literally, he said it's like, Otunga, shut up. But anyways, I think you're 100% right. I think that you could have had, this match a little further up in the card, maybe like a second or third match. But it wasn't a terrible match either. It's just I don't think it was the match to go home on.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But it still told a good story. And like you said, this was, Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton. Randy Orton, you can put him pretty much with anybody too.
Yeah.
Look. So have you seen the parallels to what they did with Kofi last year to what they've done with Drew McIntyre this year with Randy Orton? They faced each other at like every pay-per-view.
Yeah.
They've overlapped. So Randy Orton's the guy. Like when you have somebody that you want to face, a champion that needs a challenger, Randy's the guy. And he stood the test of time. It
was kind of weird seeing Randy Orton as a face here. He can pull it off, but he's way better as a heel.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those guys. Just like Baron Corbin, you can never really see him as a face.
No,
he's a heel. That's just what he is. He's a heel. But yeah, so it's just certain people are heels. Like AJ Styles does both ways well.
Yeah.
But he's a believable heel and he's a believable face. Ambrose was the same way when he was in the Shield, and then when he was, he lost some steam. But there's very few people that are, in my opinion, just one way. And I think Randy Orton should be a heel 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, I agree. So there it is. That wraps up No Mercy 2016. Overall, I thought it was a solid show. I'd probably give it about a 6.5 rating.
I was going to say 6. It would have been a little bit better had they managed the card a little better.
Yeah.
I think that kind of, like I said, no offense to Naomi and Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton, the last couple of matches after after the Intercontinental Championship match were kind of a letdown.
Yeah.
They weren't bad matches. It's just there was really nothing going on in them.
Match to recommend from the show would be the title match for me, the triple threat. With a really, really close second would be the Intercontinental title match.
Yeah, and even for all the gaga there, the referee took control, threw them out.
Yeah, threw them out right before the end.
But it didn't make the match end that way, which is good. So, and that, I like Gaga for story's sake, not just for Gaga's sake.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I totally agree. If you want to turn this card on and watch just the first match, that's probably all you have to do. No opinions on any other match other than the Intercontinental Championship match. I think everything else was just okay. And I know next week we have we're going back even further.
We're going back further. Yeah, next week we're going to talk about Taboo Tuesday 2004. So we're going back 16 years. Just to run down the card to give you a quick preview. The dark match was pretty interesting. You have Sergeant Slaughter and Muhammad Hassan
with Daivari.
You have Shelton Benjamin, Chris Jericho. Looking forward to watching that match. Trish Stratus in a Fulfill Your Fantasy Battle Royal. Oh, we should mention Taboo Tuesday is where the fans had a choice of different stipulations to vote on.
Yes.
And there's rumors whether the voting was true or not. Bruce Pritchard says it was all legitimate. So we'll see. We don't, who knows?
Yeah, we'll never really know.
We'll never know. Yeah. You have Snitsky in
It's Not My Fault.
It's Not My Fault with Kane in a weapon of choice match.
Eugene against his Uncle Eric.
Yes, Eugene against Uncle Eric Bischoff. You have Chris Benoit and Edge against La Resistance. Christy Hemme and Carmella, not the Carmella
that is a different Carmella.
It's a different Carmella. Yes. This is Playboy Carmella.
Yes. This is not Princess Staten Island
Carmella. No. Triple H and Shawn Michaels, looking forward to that one. That's got to be a really good match.
And then what was the last match of the last show? Who was in that one?
Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt.
And who's in the last match of the show?
Randy Orton, with Ric Flair.
In a steel cage match.
So really, a lot of good matches here. I think that Shelton Benjamin, Chris Jericho could stole the show.
Yeah.
For this one. So really looking forward to watching that.
Yeah.
And that's going to come for you guys next week.
Yeah, it should be good to go. Like I said, I have anything from that I can watch that's an older show. It's funny because the stuff that's been the last 5 years have actually been pretty good too. So usually that stuff's hit or miss, but And then even there's like a little lull after like 01, 02. There's kind of a window where it was kind of iffy stuff too, hit or miss. But I mean, this is 04. They're coming out of it. Some of the stuff when Edge and Undertaker had their feud going, Eddie Guerrero. There's so many things that I like to go back and watch, and it's cool to see. Like I said, you have, like you said, Jericho and Shelton Benjamin. You have Ric Flair, Orton. You have Triple H, Shawn Michaels. How can you not? How can you go wrong with that?
Yeah.
There's going to be some crap in there, obviously, with Eugene and Bischoff. And the lingerie match with Carmella, not that Carmella. And, there's going to be some stuff that's going to be a little iffy, but I think it's going to be a pretty good show.
I think so, too.
Without watching it yet, without rewatching it, I have high hopes.
I do, too. So we'll give you our take on that show next week. We'll be back next Saturday at 5. Everybody take care. Until then, I'm Tim Kurt.
And I'm Roland Hewlett.
And this is Wrestling with Wrestling Past and Present.